Chris Codependent, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and then I post it up to Facebook. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka, done. I would like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Codependent. Hey, Ashley. They are an online therapy company. They are international. So if you are in the UK and you need to get to a therapist, you can go on to BetterHelp.com/Chris Codependent, fill out some questions, and they will set you up with a licensed professional therapist here in the US. They are master's level or PhD level. They're all licensed. It's great. And if you don't like them, you just go back on and say, hey, we didn't click. Please put me with somebody else. And they will find you a different therapist. If you are in a small town in the US and you want to get to a therapist that's farther away, then they will set you up with a licensed professional therapist in your state, which is awesome. So anyway, BetterHelp.com/Chris Codependent. And like I said, I'm really happy with them because I've gotten really good feedback from the people using them. So that is cool and groovy. All right. So announcements. All right. So Susanna and I have decided to hold off on touring again. Thank you, COVID. So we're kind of trying to figure that all out. However, we are still plotting and planning to do a seminar at some point. It is either going to be in Scottsdale or in Palm Springs. I've got a massage therapist, Diane, who was on the show, who's very, very interested in doing the seminar as well. We've got other people that are interested in doing the seminar. Oh, hello, India. My goodness. So hopefully, I'm hoping we'll see how the winter goes. And if in the spring it's looking better and that antiviral pill makes a difference, that would be great. Then we're going to look at doing a seminar, probably a Friday night, Saturday morning, or Saturday day would be all the seminars. And then, thank you, Benny. Then Sunday we would do the goodbye breakfast and all of that sort of good stuff. And I don't like those seminars where you can't actually sit and talk to people. So I'm very much like, if you went on the cruise with me and John, you know, we did breakfast with you guys. We hung out, we had lunch, because I like talking to people and I like hearing what's going on. So that's kind of my way of doing a seminar. It's like, hey, let's, no host, lunch, breakfast, whatever. We'll go talk and we'll do the seminars and hang out and answer all your questions. So at some point it is going to happen. And it's going to be more than just me and Susanna. I think it's going to be me, Susanna, Diane Brown, who's a massage therapist. I'm trying to get Marsha Diane, who is also a therapist. She's very spiritual, to do that. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Speaking of Susanna, you're still that girl, Susanna Quintana, SusannaQuintana.com. She's my girl because she's awesome. So this is a great book for recovering from a narcissistic abusive relationship. There is Shahida's book, which I love her. Shahida Arabi, The Highly Sensitive Person's Guide to Dealing with Toxic People. I love this book because she has all sorts of suggestions for journaling and things to do to work, cognitively work out the abuse. So this is a great book. If you are going through a divorce, you need to get Splitting by Bill Eddy and Randy Krieger, because this will tell you, I am running out of room. Good Lord. I'm just going to put this on the floor. Hang on. Ugh, clunk. This will tell you everything that your abusive ex is going to pull during the legal process. So this is a great book if you're thinking of divorcing, or if you're in the middle of the divorce, or if you're in denial and you're going, no, they would never do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, they will. They will do X, Y, and Z. I know they're going to do X, Y, and Z. These guys know they're going to do X, Y, and Z. You need to know they're going to do X, Y, and Z. So this is a great book. If you are interested in my books, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him cha-cha. Why some people get into abusive relationships and stay, and other people get out. And then my first book, What's Wrong with Your Dad? Whew, got about 4 hours. So this is about my journey at kind of like why I became a therapist. So right there. Also, to let you know, I just got my headshots done for the new book, which is called So you want to be a therapist. So that's coming out soon. I just got the headshots done for that. I'm going to be doing the audio for it in November. So the hard copy book is probably going to be coming out sometime this month. And the audiobook will be coming out sometime in November, December. That's the evil plan. And I'm working on the fourth book, which is more along the lines of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him cha-cha. But this time it's about, finding yourself, coming out of the abusive relationship and finding yourself. So there is that. Okay, so let's dive into this. So a lot of the times I get questions about, well, what's the difference between dependent personality disorder versus being codependent? Well, there's a lot. There's a lot. So let's read, and this is the DSM. Let's read what this is. So dependent personality disorder, and this is a cluster C. Okay, so narcissism and borderline are cluster Bs. Dependent personality disorder is a cluster C. So pervasive and excessive need to be taken care of. That leads to submissiveness and clinging behavior and fears of separation. Kind of sounds like borderline in a lot of ways. Beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts is indicated by 5 or more of the following. But it's different than borderline. So I want to be very clear about that. But borderline, remember, borderline personality disorder, when it starts sliding down the spectrum, has got traits of all the major personality disorders. So they can be dependent. They can be terrified of making a decision because they're afraid of being abandoned. So number 1, has difficulty making decisions without an excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. So in other words, a healthy, normal person can walk into a store, try on a pair of pants and go, yep, those are the ones. Or, oh God, no, that makes, Lord, what is happening to my butt? Seriously. So they can make a decision, not a problem. It's like, yes, I'm going to buy these pants, or good God, no. With somebody with dependent personality disorder, they need to get everybody's opinion, the sales clerk's opinion, their friend's opinion, their parents' opinion. They can't just walk in and just be confident in their choice of, okay, done, et cetera. This is what I want, or no, this is not what I want, et cetera. So they have to have an excessive amount of advice and reassurance that they're making the right choice. Why? Because people with dependent personality disorder were probably raised by narcissists. They were probably raised by an abuser, and abusers are notorious for rubbing our noses in things that we got wrong. So this is where avoidant personality disorder also comes in, and dependent personality disorder also comes in. Because if you were raised by somebody that's constantly rubbing your nose in what you did wrong, you're going to learn to either A, not make a choice at all and avoid it, or you're going to ask for everybody's opinion on it to make sure you did the right choice so that you don't get into trouble. So there is that. Okay, number 2, needs others to assume responsibility for most major areas of his or her own life. So they abdicate. They just abdicate. I can't do this. I'm a victim. I can't. I don't have the ability. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't, whatever. So they abdicate. They abdicate being parents. They abdicate responsibility. They don't get a job. They don't, it's kind of along those lines of that really bad 1930s kind of romance thing where usually the woman says, I can't think anymore. You have to think for both of us. What? No, with a side of no and an extra helping of no. And oh my God, no. So yeah, they abdicate. They abdicate responsibility for most major areas of their life. 3, has difficulty expressing disagreement with others. Now, this is sounding a little bit like codependency. Now, remember, codependency is not in the DSM-5. It's not. It should be. It's not. But it's not in there. But it exists. You and I have seen it. We have it. We see it. We've had to work on it with The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. So this has a little bit of the codependency in it. Has a difficulty expressing disagreement with others because fear of loss of support or approval. Okay. Now, this does not include fear of retribution, because that's what happens in abusive relationships. There's a fear of making, waves because the abuser is going to beat you, harm you, hurt you, put you down, throw you around, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little different. 4, has difficulty initiating projects or doing things on his or her own because of a lack of self-confidence in judgment or abilities rather than a lack of motivation or energy. So oftentimes when I work with survivors of abuse, they will be terrified of doing things on their own, going out to dinner by themselves, making a choice at a restaurant by themselves. Why? Because the abusers oftentimes order for their targets of abuse, and it gets to the point where they literally don't know what they want. They couldn't tell you what they like, what they don't like. They've abdicated so much to the abuser that they no longer know themselves. So yeah, they fear going and doing things by themselves. Well, I'll look silly. People will look at me. I can't go to the gym by myself. People will look at me. Yeah, you can go to the gym by yourself because nobody cares. Trust me on that one. So one thing I did recommend to a client that was terrified of going out and either working out or going to a restaurant or things like that, go to some place where you are not, in a huge room. Go to like one of those walk-up stands, a truck. Okay. Nobody's going to notice that you're by yourself. There's a lot of people there by themselves. A lot of business people go and eat at the food trucks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or if you're terrified of working out and you're afraid of people looking at you, do an exercise where people are not looking at you. Yoga. Nobody's looking at you. Trust me on that one. We're too busy trying not to kill ourselves, putting ourselves into downward dog, especially if you're my age. So, or Pilates. Pilates, you're usually on your back looking up at the ceiling and you're not paying attention to what other people are doing. So do things that you can do that this doesn't start going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what if? The truth of the matter is most people are so wrapped up in their own heads and their own lives, they're not paying attention to other people. They really aren't. I know for me, when I'm doing Pilates, I'm so focused on not doing anything to harm myself that I'm not paying attention to what other people are doing. I'm paying attention to, lifting the muscles and making sure I'm using my core and, things like that. So yeah, it's a good idea to do something that's going to be not, because if you go to one of those gyms, I know I'm going off on a tangent, bear with me. If you go to one of those gyms where it's a meat market, yeah, they are looking at each other. Yeah, they are wearing full makeup while they're working out on the treadmill. That happened in LA all the time. And I'm always sitting there going, girl, you're not here for the workout, are you? You're here for a different kind of workout. So yeah, you don't want to go to a gym like that. Go to a gym where people are so focused on working out that they're not paying attention to other people. Don't go to one of the meat market ones. No, that's yucky. No. Okay. Number 4, has difficulty initiating projects. Oh, I said that one. Okay. Number 5, goes to excessive lengths to obtain nurturance and support from others to the point of volunteering to do things that are unpleasant. That does sound like a little bit like codependent. So codependency, we go over and above in order to get approval from whoever that we're okay. Okay. So here's some like the contrast and comparison. There's a little bit of codependency in this, a lot not. So, okay. Feels helpless or uncomfortable when alone. We talked about that because of exaggerated fears of being unable to care for him or herself, or being afraid of being made fun of. Because what do narcissists do? What do abusive parents do? They make fun of their kids. Ask me how much I like those parents. Yeah, nothing. I don't like them at all. So yeah, they do that. And that causes people to be afraid of being made fun of. Urgently seeks another relationship as a source of care and support when a close relationship ends. So that does happen to survivors of abuse. They get out of one relationship and without working on themselves, they dive right back into another one because they cannot stand the idea of being alone with themselves because these thoughts are no bueno. So this does sound a little bit like borderline as well, which is interesting. And, narcissists do the same thing. They can't stand not having a supply. Their reasoning is they need supply. Borderline's reasoning is they can't stand being alone because they need that support because the thoughts are so mean to them. And dependent, it's the same thing. They're afraid of being alone. What are the thoughts? Number 8 is unrealistically preoccupied with fears of being left to take care of him or herself. Okay, so that's dependent personality disorder. Now, let's talk about codependent. Now, and if you notice, it all starts kind of, sounding like, oh, well, this sounds like borderline. This sounds like narcissism. This sounds like codependent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. With both borderline and narcissism, when they slide down towards the malignant end of the spectrum, it's no longer just traits up, okay? They are actively harming other people. They're enjoying it. They're, dark triad for the narcissist. They're getting down to that witch and queen area for the borderlines. All of the personality disorders literally start overlapping, and they have traits of all of them. So it is interesting that you see similarities between those. So, okay. Where do I want to go next? Okay, I need to turn off the sound because it just buzzed in my ear. Okay, I want to go to codependency because I talked about dependent personality disorder, excessive dependence on others, needing to be taken care of, submissive or clingy, fear of having to provide self-care, lack of self-confidence, difficulty starting or doing projects, difficulty disagreeing with others, fearing disapproval, tolerance of poor or abusive treatment, when other options are available, urgent need to start a new relationship when one has ended. Okay. All right. So let's go to codependent. Okay. So again, I found some really cool articles. So one is on, and this is a couple of years old. This is on Elephant Journal, and it's called, let me find the title of it, Harlequin and Ending the Stigma We Have About Abuse Targets. They say victims. I like the word target. So Harlequin, let's talk about Harlequin. Harlequin is honestly one of the best examples of codependency I've ever seen in popular literature, because Harlequin was obviously comic book character, marvelously done by Margot Robbie. She's just amazing. If you have not seen the newest Suicide Squad, I highly recommend it. It is violent, but she blows my mind. Anyway, she's a great actress. Anyway, Harlequin in the comics was a psychiatrist, and she was treating the Joker at the Arkham Asylum thing, and he started getting in her head. And he started love bombing her. And he started, telling her how great she was and how fabulous she was. But then as soon as he knew he got her, the devalue and the discard happened. And at the end of one of the arcs of the, I think it was the television, what am I trying to say? The animated television show. At the end of one of the arcs of the animated television show, she outdoes the Joker. She's actually smarter than he is. She's actually better, I guess, at being a villain. And she was able to pull off this crime, to kill Batman. And she was better at it than he was. And in a healthy relationship, if your partner outdoes you, you cheer for them. You're like, go you, you're fabulous. In that relationship, because he's obviously a psychopath, antisocial psychopath, dark triad, everything bad is the Joker. When she does that, he becomes enraged and screams at her and tells her how stupid she was and that she ruined it all and it was all her fault. And then he throws her out of a window. And the sad thing of it is that at the end of that episode, there's Harlequin in a bloodied mess on the floor, on the ground, and she's sobbing and she says, I didn't get the joke. It's my fault. I didn't get the joke. That's heartbreaking. And then she goes about becoming less than, she's the joke now. She's just stupid, and she allows the Joker to be the smart, brilliant mastermind, whatever. So it's a codependent relationship in that she's constantly trying to make him okay. She's constantly trying to make sure he's taken care of. She's constantly trying to make sure that his wants, his needs, his desires, his plans, his brilliance, his, whatever is all taken care of. And later on in the series, once she's in the hospital, he then starts sending her flowers. After he did the devalue and the discard. So he did the Hoover. So it's the abuse clock all over again. So it blew up with her actually showing him that he wasn't the smart one. He wasn't the greatest thing ever, that she actually had as much or more smarts than he did. Then he devalued and discarded her, threw her out of a window. She took all the blame. Whoo, does this sound familiar? Current recent events, Gabby Pettit, perhaps? She took all the blame, put it on her, goes into the hospital, is maybe thinking about maybe leaving him. Maybe, who knows? That thought might have crossed her mind. And then he starts love bombing her again, sending her flowers, lots and lots of flowers, lots and lots of flowers. So the love bomb started all over again. So that is a great example of codependency. And she stays with him. And it's not because she's, a bad person or anything else like that. It's because something in her past has informed her that this is normal. This is love, and that is not love. So love isn't painful. Let me please get this, and please share these videos with as many people as you can, because if you know somebody's in a relationship like that, they need to get love does not hurt. Love does not hurt ever. If it hurts, it is not love. It's abuse. It's dysfunctional. It's toxic. It is not love. Okay. So somehow, somewhere in her mind, this was okay. Somehow, somewhere, childhood stuff, I don't know. But in her mind, even though she was a brilliant psychiatrist, she fell for this psychopath and she became literally a different person, Harley Quinn. So it's has to do with self-esteem. People who love themselves don't put up with that kind of abuse. And once somebody has harmed them, you give them the opportunity to make amends. But if they don't, if they're not honest and truthful, then yeah, you're done. So let's talk about the 6 hallmarks of codependency. Okay. All right. And this is on Psychology Today. This is called the 6 hallmarks of codependency. We have an excessive and unhealthy tendency to rescue and take responsibility for other people. And this is the biggest mistake we make when we are involved with an abuser. So just like Harley Quinn, oh, it's all my fault. Just like Gabby Pettit, oh, it's all me. We have a tendency to do that instead of going, no, this is their stuff. This is them. We have a tendency to take on the responsibility for the emotions, for the behaviors, for the actions, for the whatever, for their happiness. I can't tell you the number of times I have seen adult children sit on my couch. Well, no more because I'm doing everything through video now, but get in front of me and tell me that it was their job to care for and make sure mom was happy or dad was happy, or that the siblings were happy, or that, they had to caretake the siblings. So codependency generally comes from, different from dependent personality disorder. Codependents generally can make decisions, but the problem of it is that every decision they make is based on how it's going to help somebody else and not how they're going to take care of themselves. So we become codependent when we have a family or a family member that is absentee, neglectful, abusive, alcoholic, drug addict, and we end up having to caretake them, or we end up having to caretake them, be parentified, and take care of the younger siblings. So that is where we get this codependent feeling of, I have to take care of other people. I have to do things for other people. I can't do anything for myself. And if somebody does something for somebody who's codependent, they immediately want to turn around and do that for them. So it's like they can't just accept the gift of whatever's being given. It's like, oh, no, I need to do this for you too. Oh, no, I need to do this. No, you need to accept it and just enjoy it. Seriously. So that is where codependency comes from, is from being parentified and having to caretake the parent, caretake the other kids, caretake other family members, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are trying to save ourselves by saving the family. I know. Okay. Number 2, derive a sense of purpose and boost the self-esteem through extreme sacrifice to satisfy the needs of others. So we do that. So how many times has the abuser walked in and taken something that was ours, and we just let them do it, because they wanted it. Oh, well, they must need it more than I do, or they must want it more than I do. So what I've seen in cases of abuse in a romantic relationship is the spouse, the codependent spouse, will get a bonus or an inheritance or something, and the abuser will swoop in and go, I want that. And the codependent spouse goes, okay, and hands it over. Or if the codependent spouse buys themselves something nice, the abuser swoops in, how dare you? And then they feel guilty. Hello, fear, obligation, guilt, fear, obligation, guilt, the fog. And then they turn around and either give that to the abuser or they go buy the abuser something similar. Okay. Because narcissists are like 2-year-olds. If you have something, they want it too, or better. So the codependent, instead of drawing a boundary and going, no, this is my inheritance that I got from my mother or my father, or no, this is the bonus that I got that I've been working for. I've been saving up for this thing for myself, drawing a boundary. Instead of being able to do that, they give in and they give the abuser whatever they want because they're terrified of the abuser being vindictive, retribution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is that. Hold on. Let's go back. Okay. Number 3, choose to enter and stay in lengthy, high-cost caretaking and rescuing relationships, despite the cost to themselves or to others. So they'll get involved with somebody. And I've heard this 100,000 million times, and it kills me every single time I hear it. Well, but they deserve love too. Well, yes, technically everybody on the face of the planet deserves love. Love is the highest power. However, if they are a covert narcissist, okay, covert narcissists are the ones that do the whole covert narcissists and hermits, borderlines, are the ones that do the martyr. I do all of this for you. You never do anything for me. Victim, 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 victim. You don't treat me well, blah, blah, blah. When in fact, the codependent is treating them like a king or queen. So they stay in these relationships trying to get this approval from this person that's never, listen to me now, believe me later, never going to approve. And it always, the bar gets raised. You do 100,000 million things for them. They'll want 100,000 million and one. So they get involved in these relationships thinking it's just around the corner. So that intermittent positive reward, that addiction aspect to it. Well, but they were nice to me once, so I can feel it. They're going to be nice again. It's going to change. It's just like a gambling addict. He's sitting at the slots going, oh, it's going to come any minute. The jackpot's going to be here any minute. It's going to be here any minute, and it never comes up. So that is what. Good Lord, Mystique. That is what we do as codependents, is that we keep hoping or waiting for the jackpot, for the payoff, but it never comes because they're always dangling that carrot in our face. Okay. Let's go back to the other hallmarks. Okay. Regularly try to engineer the change of troubled, addicted, or under-functioning people whose problems are far bigger than their abilities to fix them. So codependency, the term codependency really came out of AA. It really came out of addiction. And it was to describe the enablers who were helping the alcoholics, the drug addicts, etc., but they really weren't helping. And they were killing themselves trying to help them. So, for example, they will oftentimes in addiction, send them to rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab, and they just don't stop. Why? Why aren't you stopping? Well, I can't have them fail. Yeah, you can. In fact, you need to. In addiction, you have to. And if somebody is unwilling to pick up the mantle and go help themselves, you literally cannot help them. You literally can only help people who are willing to help themselves. You cannot, listen to me now, believe me later, you cannot help the unwilling. Let me say that again. You cannot help the unwilling. If they're getting a payoff from being a victim or from being a bully, they're not going to change. They're not. And what I hear, and the heartbreaking thing I hear from parents of addicted children is, oh my God, I can't let them be homeless. Oh my God, I can't let them fail. No, you have to. You have to. That's the only way some people get better. Some people's rock bottom is death. It is. Other people's rock bottom is they get a DUI. Oh my God, that's enough. I'm done. Or other people's rock bottom is losing family and friends. Some people never get it. It's a matter of thirds. So like a third of people go into recovery and they get it and they stay clean and sober. I have yet to meet those people. Another third of people, get into recovery, relapse, and finally get clean and sober. And another third just never get it. And they just keep failing and keep going down the hole. You cannot help people that don't want to help themselves. You can only help the willing. And it's the same thing in therapy. And I tell new therapists this all the time. It's never work harder than your client. Your client has got to want to get better. And if they really want to get better, they're going to do the work. And I talk about that in the book, So You Want to Be a Therapist, because a lot of people, it's like, but no, I know you want everybody to be okay. I want everybody to be okay. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great if everybody was okay? Because then I could retire. So, and own a B&B on a beach somewhere, Victorian. Oh, haunted. That would be so cool. Anyway, good haunting, not scary haunting. Little old lady that makes bread. Anyway, the point being is that you can't help somebody that doesn't want to change. Narcissists don't want to change. They don't. They tell you they do, but the only time a narcissist ever goes to therapy is if they've been forced to by the courts, they are being forced to by family, or they are being forced to by the spouse, and they won't stick with it. They go for like 3 times, and as soon as the therapist goes, and what's your part in this? They go, screw you, and they're out of there. So, all right, hold on. We're running out of time. Okay. Okay. Have a pattern of engaging in well-intentioned, but ultimately unproductive, unhealthy helping behaviors such as enabling. And what ends up happening, and this is the sad part, is the person you're trying to help ends up resenting the living crap out of you. You will lose them in the end. You will, because they didn't really want to change in the first place. They didn't really want to get help in the first place. They see that they're not healthy, functioning, whatever. They start getting really resentful, and you will lose them in the end. So one thing I said I wanted to talk about before we dive into the questions, because we are going to get to the questions, but I wanted to talk about this first. One thing I wanted to talk about was when 2 codependents get together. So initially, when 2 codependents get together, it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember the Jungle Book, the old one, the cartoon one, and the vultures are all sitting on the tree. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And it's kind of like back and forth forever because everybody's afraid to make a decision because they don't want to piss off the other people. So that kind of happens in the beginning. But as the relationship goes on, and one member of the codependent team starts making themselves small in order to make the other person happy, and always giving up to their, well, where do you want to go to dinner? And never being able to allow to make where they're going to go to dinner or what they're going to do or whatever. The resentment starts building. And eventually it starts bubbling. And then that's when people end up on my couch. So usually at a point when it's too late. So, and this is the thing that kills me. It's like codependents have this, and we all do it because hello, recovering, hello, we have this desire to people please, which is why I'm saying Harriet Breaker, The Disease to Please, read it. Melanie Beattie, Codependent No More. Sherry, thank you. Melanie Beattie, Codependent No More. Beyond Codependent No More. PM Melody has a book on codependency. We want to people please. We want to make them happy. We want to, we want everything to be smooth and great and wonderful and awesome. But then they don't return the favor, or it just becomes this like analysis paralysis. I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? The resentment starts building if we start going, oh no, that's okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. German food is fine, when really you wanted Indian food. That's the time to speak up. But those little things start building and building and building and building. And that's when the resentment starts in. And that's what kills a relationship. So 2 codependents together is no bueno as well. So, in the beginning, it's all, let me please you, let me please you, let me please you, let me please you. I don't know. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? But then eventually it's like, oh no, that's okay. Oh no, that's okay. Oh no, I really don't want that. Oh no, I really don't want that either. Oh no, da. And you start giving up little aspects of yourself. And then eventually you get really angry because the resentment has built up so much because you haven't spoken up for yourself. You haven't said, no, this is what I want. We can do this one week and we can do this the other week, or, whatever. So boundaries, Disease to Please, Harriet Breaker, Self-Esteem Workbook, Glenn Schiraldi. That is the cure for codependency, because people who love themselves stand up for themselves. Dependent personality disorder, those are the perpetual victims. They never make a decision. They can't decide for themselves. They need an exorbitant amount of reassurance. So again, therapy, and it's probably because of trauma. Guarantee it. It probably came about because of trauma that caused them to second guess themselves to the point where they are now stuck. So there that is. All right, let's dive into the questions. Okay. Isn't this kind of dependency and codependency connected to the lack of self-differentiation? Yes. So when we are with an abuser, literally, by the time we're done with that abusive relationship, whether it is a parenting relationship or whether it is a romantic relationship or even a boss relationship, we lose who we are. We no longer know who we are, and our boundaries become so blurred that we don't know where we begin and end, and where that romantic relationship begins and ends, or where that familial relationship begins and ends. So that's why it's really, really important. Self-esteem, boundaries, deal breakers. These are all ways to differentiate yourself, to have a clear boundary from who you are versus who they are, so that you know what your wants and needs are. So very often I have people sitting on my couch after the end of an abusive relationship. Where's my water? There it is. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Woo. And they will tell me, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want anymore. I don't remember what makes me happy, because they've lived for so many days, weeks, months, years, some cases, decades, trying to make this person who will never be healthy, who will never be happy, who will never approve, to be healthy, happy, to approve. And so they've lost who they are. It's like, I don't know who I am anymore. I couldn't even tell you what I like to eat. That literally happens. So yes, differentiation. It's like beginnings and endings. Where you begin and end, where they begin and end. Boundaries, super important. Self-esteem, super important. Basically, everything literally boils down to self-esteem. Work on your self-esteem. Work on the mirror work. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. You know what? I give you permission to say no. And then listen to what the internal critic does. If the internal critic pops up and starts screaming at you, ding, 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 that's what you need to work on. Thank you for your input. Shut the bleep up. Why? Because I say so. I am the boss of this. This is not the boss of me. I get to say no. Why? Because I say so. I am the boss. And you reaffirm that. And you do that as many times as you need to. So boundary drawing, self-esteem is huge. Go back to finding out what you like to do. What did you used to like to do before you got involved with the abuser? Or when you were a kid and you were in the crazy family, what was it that you used to like to do? What did you used to enjoy doing that they didn't touch, that they couldn't get a hold of? Or maybe they did get a hold of it, but you used to like to do it before they got a hold of it. Go back to doing that. So this is why I tell people it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Go fly kites. Oh my God. I love flying kites. When we lived in Oregon, we went to the beach. We went to Cannon Beach all the time, and I would fly kites there. And it just made me so ridiculously happy, because that's what little kids like doing. So get back to the things that make you happy. Get back to doing the things that bring you joy. Try coloring books. Oh my gosh. One of my girlfriends had 2 little kids, And so there was a cocktail party, et cetera, et cetera. I went off with the little kids and we sat there and we drawed oh, good grammar, Chris. We drew in the comic book or the coloring book. And it was so much fun and it was so relaxing. There's a reason why there's a whole bunch of adult coloring books out, because it's relaxing. It's fun. So do that. Do things that bring you joy. Do you like miniature golf? Go do miniature golf. Do you like bowling? Go do bowling. What are your favorite foods? Go explore what you want, what you enjoy. Experiment with going out to dinner by yourself. Tell this voice to shut the bleep up and to go pound sand when it's like, oh my God, people are looking at me, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. I'm going to have the salmon. Thank you. Or whatever. So go and do things that challenge you, that expand your boundaries, that expand your, if you've made your world super small, go expand it back out again. Go try new things. Go do new things. Go explore. Figure out what you want. What is important to you? What makes you happy? What brings you joy? Remember, narcissists do not feel the way we do. They don't. They don't experience love or joy or happiness or anything else the way a healthy, normal person does. And when they see somebody experiencing a healthy, normal emotion, whether that's crying or anger or joy or happiness or whatever, they come unglued because they can't feel it. So they try to take it away from us. They'll take over hobbies. They'll take over what we like to eat. They'll take over cooking. They'll take over whatever brings us joy. They'll try to take it away from us. So your job, once you get out of an abusive relationship, is to go remind yourself what you used to like to do and what you do like to do that you haven't done in years because of the abuse. So get back to that. I hope that answered the question. The behaviors under dependent personality disorder sound like they could be induced by abusive treatment. Yes, absolutely. If so, isn't it more like a set of learned behaviors that can be unlearned than a typically hard to treat disorder? Yes and no. So think of it this way. If it was learned under abuse and they were little itty bitty ones, okay? It's the same thing with borderline. They started being abused when they were itty bitty. And so those fear is a very powerful motivator. It's a very powerful deterrent. It's a powerful emotion. It is. You have to undo all of those fears. You have to undo all of those mistaken thoughts. You have to undo all of those mistaken beliefs. So if you find yourself with dependent personality disorder, if you find yourself constantly being terrified of making a choice or making a decision or whatever, you're going to want to get with a good trauma therapist. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, it is based in trauma. Most personality disorders are, not all of them. Not all. Narcissism is not based in trauma. Don't let them BS you with that. They do. They try. They're like, oh, I had a traumatic childhood. No, you didn't. So don't get me started. But most of them, like borderline, dependent, avoidant, OCD, those are all based in trauma. All of them. Schizoaffective, schizotypal, not. But the borderline, the avoidant, the dependent, the OCD, yes, those are all based in trauma. If you have any of those, get with a good trauma therapist and start working on the trauma. And that's going to actually help you resolve all of the behaviors that are learned that are coming up out of that. So yeah, that's why when anybody says they have any of those, I'm like, okay, here's what we need to work on. We need to work on the trauma. We need to work on this. We need to work on boundaries. We need to work on self-esteem. We need to work on inner child work, because that's where the trauma happened. So that would be The Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor. Now, some people, because the trauma was so great, they don't remember their childhood. That's okay. You don't have to. It's enough to know that you don't remember your childhood, which is a huge red flag. Oh, my goodness. Looking like the Communist Party. Seriously. It's like, red flag that trauma happened. Okay. Something happened. You may not remember it. And that's okay. You can still work with it. I don't remember from ages, 0 to 6, but then after 6, I remember stuff. Okay. Well, something happened. We don't know what yet. But we're going to start assuming that something happened, and we're going to start working through the Inner Child Workbook and working on the self-esteem of that little 4-year-old. Do you see where I'm going with that? You start building the self-esteem, build the self-esteem, build the self-esteem, build the self-esteem, build the boundaries, build the love for yourself. That's what's important. So yes, it is trauma informed. And it is still hard to treat because fear, like I said, is a primal, it is part of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn motivator. And if these behaviors have kept us safe while we were growing up in an abusive relationship, an abusive home, it's going to be hard to get rid of them, but not impossible. Not impossible. So, but it does take a good trauma therapist working on the inner child, working on the trauma, working on building self-esteem, working on building boundaries. Deal breakers. Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's see. How to get over the shame of having made myself smaller when I was in a codependent relationship. I keep remembering how people thought about me back then. Okay, none of us are who we were. None of us, all of us have made mistakes. All of us, if we're codependent, all of us have made ourselves small in order to try to please the partner. Forgive yourself, sweetie. Forgive yourself. We've all been there, done that. Hello. Hi, my name is Chris Godinez, and I'm a recovering codependent. Seriously, it's what you have to do because that's how we were groomed. That's how we were raised. There's a reason we became codependent is because it's usually from having been in a family of origin where we had to caregive all the time. And we had to take care of people and this, that, and the other thing. And then we take that out into our other everyday life. So forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. You didn't know what you didn't know when you didn't know it. Now you know better. Now you can do better. So you forgive yourself. And if other people, here's a big one. If other people try to bring up your past and make you wrong for how you were in the past and go, oh, well, you did this when you were in high school, or you did this when you were in grade school, or you did this when you were a young adult. That's when you really got to ask yourself, what's the motivation? What's their agenda? Because who else does that? That would be, I don't know, narcissists. Dragging up the past, trying to put shame into your head over something you did 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. You always want to question the motivation of that person doing that. Why are they doing that? And sometimes when people do that with me, like there's a few people from my high school that when I have to go to high school reunions, they'll try to do that. And I'll look at them and go, yeah, well, that's not who I am anymore. Thanks for asking. And then I'll buzz on off. It's like, I'm not playing your game. Thank you. So yeah, you just self-confidence is self-esteem. Self-esteem is self-confidence. It really is. Boundaries is also self-esteem and self-confidence. So yeah, you want to ask yourself, what's the motivation for dragging up the past and trying to embarrass you with it? Or if you are the one dragging up your own past, trying to embarrass yourself for it, who taught you the shame? Who taught us the shame? Abusers teach us the shame. Abusers shove their shame into our head and we think it's ours. It is not. Hand the shame back to where it belongs. CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, Chapter 3. I think it's Chapter 3. I really need to go back and take a look at that book. Anyway, I think it's Chapter 3. Putting the shame and the blame and the anger and everything else and the guilt back to where it belongs. It is not yours. We do not pop out of the womb feeling guilty. We don't. Yeah. So, or shameful. We don't. That's taught. That's a taught behavior. So yeah, you want to forgive yourself. We all made ourselves smaller, every single one of us. And we can heal and recover from being codependent. And how do we do that? We do the mirror work. We do the workbooks. We do the CPTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. We do the self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. We do the inner child workbook by Catherine Taylor. We get with a good trauma therapist. We start working through our past. Where did this come from? Why did I believe this? We get rid of the mistaken thoughts and the mistaken beliefs. And you do recover from it. You do. It takes work though. And a lot of times people will want to get help, but then not really want to do the work. And I have to explain to them, it's like, this is not osmosis. You're not just going to have a session with me and suddenly, you are healed. It would be great if it worked that way. Wow. Wouldn't that be cool if that would be cool. That would be cool. Doesn't work that way though. The last person that did that got nailed to a tree. So, you can't expect that. When you go into therapy, you're going to have to do the work. And that means having to confront and feel and work through the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts and the mistaken beliefs that happened when we were kids. And some people are just like, no, 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 I don't want to. I'm just going to ignore it. Well, when we ignore things, we're not dealing with them, but they're still running in the background like a broken code. Okay, like a broken computer. There's some malware running in the background, and it'll come out sideways if you're not aware of it, if you haven't worked on it. That's why I'm saying you cannot allow the fear. Remember, fear is a powerful motivator not to do things because we're afraid. You cannot allow the fear to stop you from processing the trauma. That's what you got to do. You got to put it back onto the abuser. You got to clear that headspace out of all the mistaken thoughts and mistaken beliefs that the abusive family or the abusive boyfriend or the abusive boss or the abusive friends shoved into your head, because they're not yours. You got to confront it and you got to work with it. And guess what? You can do it. You can do it. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, how old do I feel when I'm terrified? A lot of times when I'm working with clients, I'm starting to lose my voice. I can hear it. A lot of times when I'm working with clients, they will, express this, I don't want to feel it. I don't want to think it. I don't want to have to. Well, how old are you right now? And then right after they tell me to go pound sand, they'll say, I'm 2. I feel like I'm 2. Okay, well, that's where the abuse happened. That's why you're terrified. It's your 2-year-old is terrified. Let's comfort them. Like, why don't you put your 2-year-old on your lap and hold her or hold him and hug him and tell him how wonderful he is. Tell her how great she is. Tell her she's safe. Tell him he's safe. Tell them that you've got their back. They're okay. Everything's good. So that's what you got to do. So there is that. Okay. Don't make yourself feel shame. If you feel shame, put it back on the abuser and remind yourself, we do what we can. We do the best we can with what we've got at the time. And then afterwards, now that we know better, now we can do better. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Okay. Codependents and narcissists can both have a savior complex. How do they approach being a savior differently? Different motivations. So remember, a narcissist is never really truly interested in another person. They look at it as to how they can aggrandize themselves. So those are the ones who do the charitable acts, but then they make sure to tell everybody all of their charitable acts. Okay, people who are really interested in doing charitable acts don't feel the need to go on to Facebook or YouTube or I don't know what other social media, Twitter, Instagram. What's the other one? Snapchat, all of these, things and go, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at all these charitable acts that I'm doing. No, they're doing it for self-aggrandizement. So self-aggrandizement. So with a codependent, is their well-being depends on the other person being okay. I need to make sure you're okay. I need to make sure this is good. I need to make sure the family is working. Remember, that's kind of the original motivation for the whole codependency. So it's all about the other person making sure they're okay so they can be okay. Whereas with the narcissist, it's look at me, look at me, look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at all my good charitable acts, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. Okay. All right. And of course, here's the thing. A narcissist will never put themselves out. Ever. They will never put themselves out. One of the defining acts of codependency is the codependent will put themselves out to the point where they keel over in order to help. Narcissists will never go out of their way for a single living creature ever on this planet. If it puts them out of comfort, they're not going to do it. So that's the difference. All right. Let me take some more water because my voice is really going. Oh my God. Okay. How to deal with a friend who purposely trauma dumps. Is there something specific I should pay attention to with this personality type? Well, okay. I'm assuming that you mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that you mean that the person, comes and tells you all of their problems. Okay. So people do that, not realizing how hard it is on the listener. So you got to tell them to get a therapist. If they start trauma dumping on you, you've got to be like, look, I love you. I want to be here for you. However, this is a boundary. This is what you do all the time. You need to go talk to a professional. I am not a therapist. I can't help you. A trauma therapist can help you. Right now, all you're doing is you're just regurgitating everything that's happened. You need steps to help you keep moving forward so that you don't keep living in the past. And they may come unglued. They may be like, well, you're not a real friend, blah, blah, blah. But I'm sorry, if a friend walked up to me and said, you should probably go see a therapist, I would go, okay, and go see a therapist. So, somebody who trauma dumps all the time generally is not interested in change. So people who are interested in change ask questions. What can I do about this? Can I change this? Can I help this? What do you think I should do? And then, you can give them your opinion. But if they're just coming and going, and just vomiting all of this trauma all over you, but not doing anything, not working a workbook, not seeking therapy, not doing anything to better themselves, then you need to stop, because now that's enabling them, because now they're just victim. And you don't want that. And they may or may not stick around, because again, if they're covert narcissists and they're the constant victim, or if they're the hermit borderline and they're the constant victim, there's a payoff for their behavior. And if you're not giving them the payoff, then why should they stick around? So you have to be prepared to lose that friend. So do recommend that they go get trauma therapy, recommend the books. And if they don't do anything to better themselves, then you know that they're not interested in change. They're just interested in being a victim and just vomiting all over you. So you don't have to take that. You absolutely don't. Boundaries. Okay. This is going to be our last question, because I am losing my voice. Can some people become codependent because we wrongly internalize messages from our parents that they didn't intend to give? Or is it always from hearing overt messages? No, we can internalize unsaid things too. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't. So parents can also give nonverbal, you need to take care of me clues. And that's never a mistake. So yes, it can be nonverbal, it can be overt, it can be covert. Absolutely. They can be both. So yeah. And basically, again, get with a good trauma therapist, undo the mistaken thoughts, undo the mistaken beliefs. You do not have to caretake everybody in order to be loved. And that's our big thing, is that we think that if we caretake them, we're going to be loved. But really what ends up happening is we take over responsibility for them. We kill ourselves doing it, and then they get resentful. Yeah, no, it always backfires. Always. So what you want to do is you want to work on self-esteem, the self-esteem workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, boundaries, Harriet Breaker, The Disease to Please, awesome book, inner child work, figure out how old you were when this all started, the inner child workbook by Catherine Taylor, mirror work. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. I give you permission to say no and mean it, and then walk out. So yeah. All right, guys, I am losing my voice quickly. So next week, I am going to take off because the painting and the flooring is finally done and I get to move furniture back in. So I'm going to be moving my furniture back into my house. That's going to be awesome. So yay. So no show next week, but the week after, which will be the 17th, I want to talk about the original wound. I want to talk about excising those parental units that were toxic out of your head forever. They don't need to live up there. So we're going to talk about healing the original wound. We're going to be talking about toxic parents. I'm going to throw in a little bit of toxic in-laws as well, because they're all kind of, mixed up together. And there's been a lot of questions on that. So we're going to talk about in 2 weeks, not next week. I'm taking next week off. In 2 weeks, we'll talk about healing the original wound, dealing with toxic parents, dealing with toxic in-laws. So boom, there it is. I will be doing questions on Wednesday. I'll be answering questions that have already come in. So that'll be up on Wednesday on YouTube, so whenever that gets approved. And there it is. So I won't see you next weekend, but I will see you the weekend after on the 17th, toxic parents, toxic in-laws, healing the original wound. All right, kids. Be good. Take care of yourselves. Drink plenty of water. And I will talk to you later. Bye.